Hey everyone, how's it going? How's this fine morning out here in Asia? Evening out there in the U.S. I'm trying something new, and yeah, let me talk for a bit. This is a weekend, so I'm not gonna be on camera, but I'm gonna have the caption up here, so hopefully that'll work pretty well. Let me just make sure that is it's a little not responding that quickly, so give me a second here. Okay, it looks like it's going now. If I don't have the window focused, it seems to be a little bit uh, a little unresponsive, but we'll do our best. Yo, how's it going, Mighty Sandwich? Okay, as people fall in here, let me just talk a little bit about what we did last time. If you remember, we were able to get collisions working effectively. We're just printing out a debug message when that happens. Nothing surprising. So I hope this new layout just for the weekend, I have other people in the house, so I'm just not in. We live in a small place, so yeah, just for their sake, I will have the camera off. So yeah, you can see when we move the character towards the other character, we get a standing. Well, we get a debug message. Yeah, overlap, overlap, overlap. Okay, so that works. So what's the plan for the day? Well, unfortunately, I didn't get to all the things I wanted to do in June, but we have a lot to do in July, and it's going to be pretty exciting. It's mostly going to be gameplay stuff, so that's going to be awesome. Uh, so yeah, I hope you're all having a good evening, good morning, wherever you may be. Okay, so the thing I wanted to do is have an attack trigger that will actually be the thing that causes a hit, and then I also want to make a reaction state to demonstrate things like hit stun, maybe block stun. Well, we'll have to get to block at some point. And yeah, and also, if possible, I want to add a debug frame step. That's going to be something very useful. I may go ahead and do that today. We'll see. We'll see. Okay. So just to talk through this thing, the easiest thing to do is to go ahead and add an attack. What I'll do is I'll have the character flash a particular color when the attack happens so that we know they're attacking. Also means for an attack, we're going to have to finally implement a timer for our actions. Currently, we don't have any timers that execute during a state that will indicate whether or not the state is finished or the action is finished. In fighting games, animations run a particular amount of time, and then when they finish, you tend to return to idle. So we need to implement an action timer and transition to idle when the timer is up. So that's going to be something we're going to have to do today. So yeah, let's get around to it. Let's just look at the input first, and then we'll get around to the action stuff. Okay, so yeah, currently we have walking, and that works. So let's see. Let's go to our game. Is it game state? Game state machine? No, it's common states, right? So how does going to walk work? Well, during standing on update, you see if you have input right, we go into walking forward. So for now, the easiest thing to do is we can go if input dot attack. We'll go into our attack state. Yep. And we're going to abstract a lot of this stuff later. We're just going to go to attack. Okay, we don't have an attack yet, but we'll get around to it. So yeah, let's just copy our walking forward state because it's going to be very similar kind of situation we're going to want for an attack. Like it will end at a certain time and return to idle. But it's going to use a timer instead of using a whether or not you're holding the button or not. So we won't have this part, but we'll have a transition. So we need a condition here, right? So we'll need something like this, right? We need a context to check things. So what we're going to do, I think the plan is we're going to add a timeline component. Timeline component is going to keep track of the total time that have elapsed in an action. So yeah, let's do something like this, right? We want like context dot maybe it's something like timeline component, and then we'll do timeline, and what we'll do is something like, yeah, we don't need this at all. Yeah, it'll be something like, right, if timeline dot action timer is greater than, let's say, we don't actually have this information yet, but action total time, we'll pull in that value from our character data actually. So don't worry about that. So we'll have this condition that executes and returns us back to idle. In this case, we're calling it standing. Something else we'll have to do is when we say transition to idle, what we mean is not just going back to the standing state. What we mean is it can go into anything that you can do while you're in neutral, which means effectively that you don't want to go to standing first and then transition to other states. You want to go directly into anything you want to do coming out of an attack, such as another attack. So you won't spend an additional frame in a state you don't want to be in. That has replication up, that has consequences, right? Like in fighting games, if you did that, you would have an additional frame of frame disadvantage, right? So that's something we have to really consider. Okay, so it's going to be something like this as well. Currently, our components, what components we have? We have our physics component here, hit event, da da da. In the game simulation, where's our components? Yeah, actually, I think we put our components in the game state, right? Yeah, so we have our physics components, state machine components, input components. So we got a new component. Let's go ahead and just call the timeline component. It might be something we change in the future, but we're all like expecting to change code in this project. We're completely okay deleting code. That's not a problem. Okay, so what we're going to need is we're going to use an integer value for this. So we'll get rid of the position. We want something like, let's call it action timer, right? Or what should we call it? Frame count or frame elapsed. Let's say frames elapsed. And let's make it a I32 for now. And we could make it a U size or something like that. I guess it doesn't really do too much. Let's leave it for that for now. Okay, so we have that, but we also need to initialize it for all the entities, right? So let's go ahead in our game state and add our, let's add our timeline components. Timeline components, we need, let's go ahead and do 10 of them because we've been doing 10 entities up to this point. We need to call it a timeline, component. It's under the component, so timeline component. And we just initialize it like we do these other things. So component.timeline component defaults times 10. And actually I just realized we didn't have default on the timeline component, so we need to assign it to 0 by default. Okay, so we have that. And just to jump back into where we're at with our common states, where were we at? Common states. Whoop. So currently, we need to get something in our context. So yeah, so we need to go to our declaration of this context, or go to the definition of the context. See, we don't have a pointer to a timeline component yet, so we're going to include that. So we're going to include the timeline component pointer as an optional, just in case we don't include it for whatever reason. And oops, we need to put a comma there. And yeah. So when where do we assign these component pointers? I think that is in our state machine, right? Let's go to the state machine. I'll look for that physics component, because that's something that you're going to use, right? Oh, we don't do it there. Do we do it in the simulation? So in the action system, we go to update state machine. We get a state machine component and pass that in, right? Do we assign those pointers anywhere? Hold on, physics. Yeah. Okay. Or was it input components? I think. So in the input, oh, we just copy that there, right? How do we actually handle that? Sorry, I'll try to be as clear about this as possible. So in our common states, again, we do assign the physics component, right? So we need let's just search for this real quick. What do we got it? We assign it somewhere. Oh, we do it here? Okay, that's where we do it. Oh, yeah. So we're just pointing to it at on setup. Okay, we'll just do that for now with the timeline component. Okay, so timeline component. This is something I might want to change in the future to be like a little more flexible. So we got our timeline component set up. So if we jump into our what else do we need? Oh, we need to set up the state, right? So here we're initializing our states like this, right? Give me a second. Okay. We don't need two of those. We initialize attack callbacks. I think it's called attacking is the name of the state we made. Oops, common states. It's called walking forward. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Standing, walking forward. Oh, okay, this is called attack. I don't want to attacking, attack. This is called attack for now. Okay. Where was our, is the game state? Yeah, it's called attack. Attack callbacks, that's fine. We need to do attack here. On update, attack. Common states attack, and then, whoops. We don't have an on end, right? Yeah, we have an on start, I think, in our common state. So we have our on start. Yeah, we're just gonna just debug this real quick, just for posterity's sake. And we got, what is it? Timeline component. Yeah, we have the timeline component, timeline, and then so what we want to do is something like if timeline dot permit lapse is greater than the action total time, which we haven't assigned this yet, then we're going to go back to the standing state. What we're going to want to do is pull in the length of an action from our character data that is part of the properties of an action. Every action is going to have that, just so they don't run forever. Some will loop, but they're going to have conditions return back to idle, of course. Idle is special. It just loops forever until something happens, like an input press. What I mean is like standing states, jumping states, crouching states. Okay, so we have that. We don't have an action total time yet, so we're going to have to move that data into here. So far, we haven't read any of the character data in our state machine. So we're going to have to like provide that, I think. Yeah, so if we go back to our, I believe it is our, let me go back to here. If we go to our collision system, we provide that, right? We need something like this. We pass in the game state, and we can pull it from the game state. We don't actually pass in the entity number into our action system, so we're not gonna be able to read that directly. So I don't want to pass in the whole game state into this. So we want to basically limit what data you get access to. So what I'm going to do here is I'll follow our path from the from our game simulation down. So we have our action system. We update the state machine with a context. For now, I'm just going to store that character data in the context, just a pointer to it, right? So what are we going to do that here? I think that we done the game state. Yeah. So when we init here, it's like this. We have these components, but we also have the context. And let's see. We assigned that context there a second ago, right? We assigned the context.physics component. Yeah. So something like this. I'm going to want to do character data, right? Yeah. So for now, we're just going to assign the character data. We don't really have anything here, but we need to add. Let's just put character data here. And it needs to be character data dot character properties. And we're going to store in the component. We need to store in the context. So I'm going to store it in the context. And of course, this can be the type. Have we imported character data into this state machine thing yet? No. So let's go ahead and do that. Character data equals import. I think it's character data is there. Okay. So that should be defined here. This is actually going to be a pointer. So let's just go ahead and do that. And yeah, so we need to assign that back in our game state at the beginning. Or was it game data? No, game state. Okay, there we go. So yeah, so character data is going to be equal to that character data we loaded up, right? Wait, actually, where did we initialize that? Do we not do that here? Hold on, I forgot where we do that actually. Oh yeah, so initialize game data. So we do that. What do we call that? We call that here. Okay, so we should have access to it now. It should be in this self variable, right? Self dot. Oops. Okay, it should be. Or do we have to do it like this? No, I don't actually know how this works. In Zig. Yeah, we should have access to it though. In this dot characters, right? Well, actually, now I'm thinking about it, we don't have access to the action map. So in order to get the current action, we need the action map. So how do we want to handle this? It would be much better if we just pass in the current action data to the actions actually executing it, right? So we don't have to worry about dereferencing, all that stuff. So maybe this is not the best way to go about it. Maybe instead we pass in the action data directly. So every time we change an action, we have a current pointer to the current action that can be accessed. Now that's not very cache friendly, but for a state machine itself is not going to be very cache friendly in the first place. So for a lot of reasons. So let's just go ahead, instead of doing what I just did, and let's go back and get rid of this stuff. We're not going to do this anymore. What we're going to do is have a current action, I guess, into the comment state context. So we might stick this somewhere else, but let's just say call it the action data, and we're gonna have character data. Whoops, I misspelled that, I guess. Character data. So it needs to be, where did it go? Where's that context? Okay, character data dot action properties. So it's a pointer to the action properties. Okay. Cool. So let's see. So what we're going to do is every time we change an action, we're going to have to update this context pointer. So let's go to our state machine that to be able to handle it, right? So the state machine is here. And we have a change action. Is it B transition thing? Yeah, so when we change action, so we get the combat state from there, and we set the current state. So the current state points to that. So what we need is context dot. Is this right? Is this right? Is this the right context pointer? Yeah, we pass in the context. So this is gonna have to be equal to, what is it? We have that character data dot find action. And we passed in the character data and the map. Vision Gap asks if I knew of any decent engines that could be used for indie dev, used for fighting game. Yeah, unfortunately, the majority of kind of AAA game development, or even like in indie space, doesn't resolve around kind of deterministic simulation. You just end up having to roll that kind of stuff yourself for the most part. It looks like some engines are trying to go in that direction just so that you can have like client side prediction that's accurate, but absolutely 100% deterministic stuff is there's nothing out of box, unfortunately, as far as I'm aware. Okay. So on this update state machine, we don't pass in the game state in the game data, right? We pass in just as context. Now, how do we, this is like one of the important questions, with game development. It's like, how do we pipe all this data around? We could store the character data. We could store the character data in the context, like we were doing before, which is not terrible, as long as, but it does give us access to the character data from within actions. I'm just trying to think if I want to expose stuff in that way, like right off the bat. We could add the character data as a parameter to this update state machine, right? We could store it, a pointer to the game data, in our state machine or access state machine itself, right? That's another thing we could do. And that's a good question. How do we want to provide access to the data? Oh yeah, no problem, Vision Gap. Happy to help anytime. Sorry, really couldn't suggest anything, unfortunately. Okay, let's see. Character state registry, machine processor. So the processor, the only thing we have is the registry of states. And so we store the combat machine processor in what? We store it in our, do we store it here? We store it in game simulation. Oh, we store it in the component, right? That's right. So each component has its own state machine. I'm just trying to think here how we want to do it. Well, let's just go ham here, and for now pass it to our state machine update function so we don't have to store it off anywhere. So the way we can do that is we just include a new parameter here. We're gonna pass in game state dot character. Is it character? Is it game data? Game data dot. Again, we don't. Is that a pointer? Is that? Oh. Yeah. forget how we dereference it. Is it like this? Yeah, characters. So we'll do that, and I know it's not entirely safe. We can just go ahead and do this. We're just going to assume there's always data for our game. If there isn't data, well, that sucks. So yeah, if we don't have game data, the game isn't initialized. That's not a problem. So we might change the later for this not to actually be a pointer. Okay, so we got our game data. We should be able to pass in the character data stuff too, right? Yeah. Alrighty, and all we need to do is update that. Just need to update that function to include the character data. Okay, so character data is going to be, what's it? Character. The type is character data dot character properties. That's the type. Okay. Actually, I messed up here. That needs to be the index into the index. And we're going to assume that exists for here for now. Let's go to state machine, and so we have that now. So when we change states, we shouldn't have to do find action. Wait, hold on. I know we can do find action. And we need to pass in character properties, and we need to pap in. We need the map too, right? That's annoying. Well, you know what? We'll just add that as a parameter as well. What we're gonna do at some point is clean this all up. Hold on real quick. What was the type of our action map? I probably want to make that a type, right, at some point. Find action, yeah. So we need to pass in this type, right? Okay. I'm probably going to change this to a particular type so that we can reference it everywhere more easily. Okay. Yeah, so jumping back here, for now, again, we're just going to pass this in as a parameter. We don't need to do this. Got that here. So we need the action map. And now finally, we need to do self.current state. It should be name. We have a name for it, right? So that will get us our current action. Hopefully all that works out all nicely. Okay. So looping back, let's just try to build real quick and see what errors pop up. Doing good here, about 30 minutes in. Okay. Oops. We do have an error in the game state. Line 61. Oh, I have a typo here somewhere. Oh, yeah, I didn't even finish this thing. That's bad. Okay. Build again. See what happens. Alrighty. Another error in the common states. Oh yeah, we didn't pass this in yet, so that's fine. We'll get to that. Unused capture. That's fine. So So our context should now have an action dot, oh. Well, let's make sure the action is assigned. One of these days, I'm going to really learn to write good Zig. But for now, we'll be doing this. A lot of ifs inside of ifs inside of ifs. Yeah, so the action data dot, there should be duration. Yeah, we have a duration for the action. So frames elapsed have, so let's think about when we actually want to return to another state, right? How will we be counting frames elapsed? So let's assume we have initial state of our game before we've run any frames. If we have an action that is 1 frame in duration, we'll do 1 game update, right? That means that action has been active for that 1 frame, and literally the next frame we want it to return to, say, idle. So during that first update, we'll actually want to return. So what we'll do is we'll increment the counter and check to see if the counter is greater than or equal to the duration, like we're doing here. That's exactly what we want. And then go to the next state. We'll do that transition. One thing to keep in mind, though, is at the end of that frame, we're going to be rendering what is shown. And if the current action is the next action, we wouldn't see, hypothetically, we wouldn't have many 1 frame actions, but if the current pointer to the current action is how we actually end up rendering what is shown on screen, like if, order matters here. So if we perform that transition before we render, which is probably going to be the case, because whole idea is we're going to take the game state and like render from what's recorded in that state, then we're not ever going to show that action, right? We're going to show the idle. So we need to think about this a little bit. How actually should we handle this? Well, one thing we could potentially do is transition at the beginning of a frame. So these are one of the tricky things in fighting games where you're like, well, the order starts to really, really matter here. Yeah, so what we can do, or potentially what we can do, is trigger transitions. Yeah, because the thing we have to think about is what state we want the game to be in the next time we update, right? Yeah, anyway, for now, we'll leave it like this. We'll leave that question on the back burner because it really depends how we handle stuff. So, yeah, let's see. Why is the timeline? It says unused capture here. That shouldn't be a problem. Oops, we did array access, so non-array type. Game simulation. What did we break here? 36. It's not array? Oh, yeah, you're right. It's not array. It's and actually we need to pass in map 2. Stay cool, okay? Okay, oops. Jumping back at the line, what is he complaining about? Expected statement. Found semicolon. Look like a double semicolon there. So common states, what do we do? What do we mess up here? Oh. Oh yeah, we don't have an attack, right? Let's go to... Let's add an attack for now. We don't have a member name. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's not there. Give me a second. So going to the state machine code. Going to line 82. It says 82, but it's, I guess because we just changed something. Yeah, so current state is not that. Current state is, oh yeah. I'll just do this again for now to get the actual state. That should work. I know I'm not writing beautiful code right now, but at least it's explicit. Okay, it runs. Cool. Alrighty, so wait, let's run it one more time. I should be able to like trigger the... I think I could trigger the attack if I don't know, actually, did I assign... No, I did not assign the attack button yet. So, a few things. We need to actually set up that action, right, in our game data, our character data. So let's go through here and make a new action right now. We'll probably have to expand our buffer here in a bit, but for now, let's just add, let's call this attack. The duration is going to be for 20 frames. We still haven't actually handled that frames elapsed thing yet, so we'll get around to that. Attack boxes, we'll just assume the attack box is going to be on frame 8, duration for 2. Okay. So there we got our attack. Let's just run to make sure everything loads up properly. Okay. And next we need to actually trigger our attack. So we need to go through to our, where is it? Is that, I think, game.zig? That's where we handle input. Yeah, so we don't have an attack yet, right? So let's go ahead and add an attack. Let's go to the gamepad button. Okay, what else? We don't have any X or anything else. Gamepad. Also, it's not doing suggestions for us, right? So we need to go to the raylib definition here. Let's see if we can find that. Trigger, button left, button middle, button right, button left. Button right, face up, face down. Let's do face left. That's a common kind of jab button you would have, right, in game. So yeah, let's make that and then make that an attack button. Okay, so we should be able to trigger the attack now, at least see it in debug. Okay, so we can move. Whoops. Did we crash? We might have crashed. Oops. Where are we at? Where's our debug? See where we're at in the main thread. Oh, we're good. I think we're just stuck in the state or something. Let's That's interesting. Yeah, we didn't get the bug information I was expecting. Let's see. Common states. What are we doing? So we have standing, if input command right, else. We do go to attack. What did I mess up? I think what I messed up was in our game data setup stuff, our game state setup, right? So we did create this attack, but we didn't assign it, right? I'm pretty sure we didn't assign it. Yeah, we didn't assign it yet, so we need to do that. We'll do it for both characters. So sometimes you just forget this stuff. And well, you can move that. It's fine. Yeah, don't worry about making noise. No problem. Yeah. Okay. Are you bringing water? Okay. Alrighty, let's see. So we have that assigned. We have the enum assigned to this set of callbacks. Okay, we'll do that for player 2 as well. Okay, so now we should have the attack available. Again, we're going to abstract all this stuff away at some point and make it like a utility function for us setting this stuff up. Eventually, it should be kind of all automatic. Okay, so attack start, but as you can see, the attack doesn't end, doesn't go back to standing because we haven't updated that elapsed timer yet. So we'll need to update that somewhere. So just for now, for convenience sake, we're going to do that in our action system, which is inside the game simulation at the moment. So go into the game simulation. So we update the state machine. What we're going to want to do is we're just going to go ahead and go to time elapsed. And we're just going to do that for all before we update the state machine. So we'll go where is that? Yeah. So right now we just write component. I'm going to change the name of this in a bit, but what we're going to do is timeline. And we're going to increment the timeline here. Okay. Frame elapsed is going to equal, do we have plus equal 1, right? And we're also going to have to reset this back to 0 when we had a state transition. So or maybe it's better to do that inside the state machine itself. Let's just do that for now. Oops. See how these things get complicated. It's like where should you do this stuff? Because order starts to matter a lot with this kind of code, with state machines. So, alrighty, where is our state machine? I'll just do it here. State machine. So let's do this. Yeah, so we know it transitions, so we know we can update the elapsed time here. So context timeline component elapsed. Well, actually, we don't know if this is assigned. So again, we're just going to check to see if this is valid. If it is, we'll update that timeline. Okay. And we have to do something like this too. So when we do have a transition, we need to reset that time. Right, so all these ifs everywhere get in my nerves. So I want to refactor things in a way so we can assume that these components are absolutely going to be assigned or going to be set. This is something we got to get used to in Zig. Okay, so we're setting it to 0. So we're going to reset the timeline when a transition has occurred, right? Okay, so we should get something like that useful, right? Oh, we do have an error in game simulation 33. because we didn't use this. So yeah, it makes sense. Thank you, Zig. Thank you, Zig compiler, for defining that for me. You're not letting me have dead code laying around. Okay, you can see at the bottom, attack starts for a little while and then we return back to standing. I can move over here. See hitboxes overlap. So what we're going to do now on that walking state, we're going to get rid of that attack box, right? So yeah, let's just go ahead and just get rid of all this. So one thing also to note is we play the game now. We walk over here. See, we don't see any attack collisions or anything like that. I press attack button and it keeps hitting, right? Over and over and over again for every single frame. There should be duration number of frames where it says this, right? Was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times 321? What did I make it, 20 frames? So yeah, it sounds about right. Yeah, 20 here. So what's happening there is we don't actually check to see if the hitbox is active yet. Even though we have it starting at frame 8 and being active for 2 frames, what's happening is we've yet to set up, today we implemented the timeline. So what we're going to actually have to do is double back on our collision system. And instead of getting all the hitboxes for an action, we only need to get the ones that are active for the current timeline. Okay, so how are we going to do that? Well, let's go back to our collision system real quick and find out how we're getting our actions. So we get all the hitboxes for the current action, right? This is what we do. We go find action and then gather attack boxes. So we get translated active hitboxes. What we've yet to pass in is the current frame, right? That's important. So what we need to do here, let me just move this over a little bit to make it clear that's a perimeter. We need to pass in a time into this function. Okay. So currently we get the entity offset. Where does that come from? Okay, so within the system we're still pulling in components directly, so we'll just say that's relatively okay for now. Not ideal, but say let's just get the game state dot timeline components entity. Okay. I guess that's okay to point to there. Maybe this will be okay. I want to make sure not to make a copy, right? But this is one of those mystery things in Zig. I'm not entirely sure. Do we get a copy here, or we just get a constant pointer, and it just treats it like a pointer, or where we get like a copy on the stack? I don't know what the best way to handle that is, but yeah. So I think maybe this is the best way to do it. It's like this. Have a pointer. I don't know. Okay, something I need to learn about. Okay, so what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to pass in timeline to elapsed frames elapsed, or elapsed frames. Oh, we're called frames elapsed for now, right? And we're gonna go to we need to pass in let's call it time. And what is time? Time is a I32. Let's just call it frames elapsed here to keep it consistent. Oops. Our tests are probably going to fail here. Oops. Our tests are going to fail. I'm going to just pass 0 in there for now. We'll come back and fix them. But yeah, we need to implement frames elapsed and pass I32. And so we're going through all the hitboxes here, hitbox groups. But what we need to check is, actually, do we have the function like that? Did we implement a function there? Is active on frame, right? So we'll do this. think that's the way we need to do it. It's like that. Okay. So this way we're only getting the active frames. Okay. The active hitboxes already. Okay. So we have that. And yeah, so we should get different behavior now. Let's just try to build it real quick, see what happens. Oh, it's still running. Okay, we got an error here. Let's go there, 166. Oh, I didn't misspelled timeline. Okay. Oh, we got a crash. So what happened? Let's look at our call stack. Did we get array out of bounds or something? Error? Index out of bounds, right. Okay, so what's the problem? What do we do? Is it, oh, because we didn't do this, right? Right. Okay. We need to do something like this. So I never fixed it for this one. So if vol count is greater than 0, we'll do this, right? Last time we had this issue, and I never fixed it for the vulnerable boxes. So in the case of this, we just need to go from 0 to 0, so that we have an empty slice. Because going to 1 to 0 didn't work, right? Or whatever index to 0 is not a valid thing, so we'll have to do that. Okay, so that works. Getting close to here. If I press the button on attack, we are not getting any collisions. So why is that happening? Well, it's probably because our game data is not set up right. We probably don't have on our, so on our standing state, we're duration of 1, but our vulnerable boxes, our vulnerable box is duration 1. So we need to put a probably duration, let's just say duration of 10 for standing, and also duration of, I'm going to make a special case, something like -1 or something. It's going to be kind of sentinel value for durations that are infinite, but for now I'm just going to make it something really high. And that should fix it. We should be able to attack now, or we should be able to hit them now, because the vulnerable boxes will be active during those frames. Still not hitting. What is the issue? Okay, we're going to start debugging this stuff now. So this is the fun part. Let's just make sure that everything looks right here. Start frame 0, duration 100. Our attack, start frame 8, duration 2. Okay. Okay. So we must have missed something up when we added this like active value, right? Or the frames elapsed are not correct. So you know what? What should we do here? I do think the frames elapsed are working correctly. So what we'll have to do is make sure this function is working correctly. Is active on frame. Okay. Let's go to definition of this. Oh, it's not in there. Let's go to game data. So we did expect, so we did write a test for this, right? So hopefully that actually works. So let's go back to, so we have reasonable confidence that that function works. Let's just run this real quick, just to like inspect what's going on, to make sure that we ever. So we're actually hitting this, and we can look at. We can add frames elapsed just to inspect what value we're getting here. So we're getting 1 there. So at some point we should go up to 10 because all the characters are going to be in idle. So somebody is not updating. You can see frames elapsed sometimes 0 here. So what is the issue there? Why is it not updating? So it looks like one of the characters is not updating. That's interesting. Let's jump into the calling function here, because we can actually look at this stuff right here, right? We can look at the current character, and so let's add timeline as a value, frames elapsed. Oh, okay, hold on. Yeah, we can just inspect that. So you can see the entity is 1, frame elapsed is 8. Elapsed is 0. On entity 0 is not getting updated. That's our main character. Why is that? Why is that the case? Why they're not getting updated? Let's go look at our action system real quick. The state machine, right? The state machine is in charge of updating frames elapsed. So let's just jump in here real quick. We don't have that value here. Or maybe we do. Let's look at it real quick. Let's just do this. I don't want to store that. I want to look at context.timeline component real quick. Oh, we can't look at that directly, can we? Okay, we looked at context, I guess. And we can look at the timeline component. Interesting. So you're seeing like unable to read memory here. Oops. So it's interesting. Oh, because we don't have a loop. I know exactly what the problem is. Well, not exactly what the problem is, but let's see. Let's jump up to the calling function. Okay. In the action system, we actually look at the current entity, right? I want to look at game state, right? I want to look at game state here. And I want to look at, I also want to look at entity index at the same time. Okay, what I want to look at is timeline component. Yeah. Yeah, we can just look at it here. And we can see how it's not being updated, right? This is the problem itself. I forgot we need to support looping. That's actually an issue. We'll get back on that. But the fact that the first entity is not updating is interesting here, right? So entity index is 1. Now our entity index 0. So why would it not be updating? It's a good question. We're hitting this, right? We're going inside here. Sorry. Where is it? Entity count, entity index. Thought we hit, okay. Yeah, so we're in there. So we should go to update state machine. Can we just jump there real quick? Can we jump in declaration? No. Cool. So I'm going to jump over here, step through here. Is it because we don't have a valid state right now? Is it because we haven't initialized to a valid state? That's a good point. Let's look at that real quick. That'd be interesting if that were the case. So current state is standing. Not available. I want to go here. Yeah. Let's expand that. Standing. Huh. Is it just that combat states are not registered correctly yet? 'Cause look. Hold on. So what I want to do actually is to do this. Okay. We're going to jump to the game simulation. We want to look at the index before it's updated. So we got entity index is 1. That's fine. We should jump into here for sure. Yeah, makes sense. We're back at entity index of 0. And we came in here, entity index is, well, that means it's fine, it's undefined. So we did jump in here. So what is the issue? Context. It says frames elapsed here. So maybe something's probably going on that doesn't make a lot of sense to me at the moment. Back at here, entity index is 1. So I think something went off with our initialization. What did we mess up? Well, I should say, what did I mess up? Okay. It wasn't game data, no, game state, right? Game state is where we do all this stuff, I think. Hold on. Was it initialize game? No, it's not there. It's a game. Whoops. Game simulation, game state. Okay. So this is where we set this all up, right? So timeline component is assigned. And we do set up an attack, but that's fine. What do we mess up here? What did we mess up? Man. Okay, what I'm gonna do is add some debug stuff or some debug printing because I'm not sure exactly what's happening here. So the debugger is nice, but sometimes it can get very confusing. So one of the easiest way to solve this kind of problem is to start logging stuff. So what I'm going to do is add a new standard debug.print. Let's say action system. I'm just going to add an index for the entity and say, sorry, entity index. Okay, so we can clearly see what's happening, and I need to do this. So, and I'm gonna do, what I'm gonna do is see it's time, and add another value here, and we should have game state dot timeline components and entity index. Okay, so we don't want to do it in line here. We want to do it afterwards. So we're going to log the current. Yeah, we're going to log the current frame and the current entity. Yeah, to make things clear here. This is kind of logging you'll do all the time when you're doing this kind of like trying to find what order a thing is causing issue for you. Okay. What I mess up here? Found 3. Do I have 3 arguments? Debug print. The index game state. What? What did I mess up? Oh. Hold on. I don't know what's going on here. Let's just double check that. Doesn't like. Oh. Yeah, right. This is Zig, not C. So gotta get my head on straight here. Okay. Oh, we hit a breakpoint here. It's fine. So let's just start real quick. Let's see what's happening in our log. Okay. Oh, I should have put frames left. But anyway, we could see entity 0, 0, entity 1 is 1, entity 0, 0, entity 1 is 2, entity 0, 0, entity 1 is 3. So it's weird. We're still seeing a behavior of like timeline component not being updated for just entity 0. Okay, we need to log some more stuff because clearly something weird is happening here. Okay. So let's jump in the collision system. Where is it? Not collision system. We want to be the state machine. And yeah, I wonder if the issue is it keeps doing this. Let's just say center debug.print. Reset timeline. Yeah, this is just an event we want to check, right? Let's go ahead and do that. See if that's happening. That could be a possibility. What you? Oh, I still have to do empty perimeter list, right? Okay. Okay, so it doesn't look like that's happening. That's good. So let's get rid of this, since we eliminated that idea. So let's go ahead and make sure that we are updating this timeline. Okay. Update timeline. Okay, and let's go ahead and just print out that value. Input frame. Say frame, and the value's there. So when you put in timeline dot frames elapsed. Okay, and just to go ahead and do that for the sake of it. Okay, so let's run it again. Alrighty, so let's look at our log, see what happened. What's happening here? Okay, so this is exactly what I thought was going to happen. Looks like we're not updating entity 0, so it looks like action 0, entity 0 frame, timeline component. Okay, so we happened on entity 0, then 1, entity 0, frame elapsed 2. So this is interesting. So first, we do update entity 0, and then we update the frames elapsed. Entity 1, frames elapsed equals 1. We don't update anything, right? Then we get back to entity 0. We update the timeline. So something weird is going on here. So this makes sense, right? This prints first, and then it does updates the timeline. That makes sense. Then we go into entity 1, and somehow frame elapsed here is 1. It's a pointer, so I think the issue is I double assigned the pointer to the same thing. Actually, that's a good point there. I just overlooked that. By the way, what's up, Christoph? I think, yeah, the issue is I did... No, this is right. Yeah, so it's a pointer. Oh, here's my... There it is. There's the problem. There's the issue right there. I just overlooked it. Okay, cool. But I think it's a good exercise to go through showing how you can log stuff and find what potential cause is there. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and get rid of all that logging real quick. But once you start doing like network synchronization stuff, this kind of logging stuff becomes invaluable. You can't just rely on the debugger. It's just going to be impossible to do anything that has asynchronous kind of behavior. Yeah, the debugger's not going to do much for you there. Okay. Okay, so we're going to move over and attack. So still not hitting though. We know the problem though, because we don't have any looping action here. So what we're going to have to do is, hold on. We're going to have to add a new property to our character data real quick. And I think that's going to be it for today. Sorry about the sneezing. Yeah, we're going to have to add a duration and a default value called isLooping. And whether or not it's a looping action or not. We could put that in the state, or we could put it in the action data. I'm gonna put in the action data for now. So let's go down to our character data. Where's that at? And in our character properties, we have a duration, right? Oh, not in the action properties, right? We have a duration, and we're gonna have value be looping, is looping, or yeah, is looping is what we're gonna call it. And we're gonna make it false by default. By the way, I want to see if that is gonna give us an error with loading real quick, because I think I supported default fields in our JSON data. Yeah, it looks like it is. So what we're gonna do is go into our data real quick. First of all, on standing, we're gonna add is looping, and I forget, does JSON support true, or is it 1 or 0? I think it does support true. Let's just make sure that loads real quick. Okay, and let's go into our game, our timeline system real quick. Well, in the state machine system, where we see if time component, if frames. So yeah, so let's do this. So if, okay, we need to do this real quick. Yeah. What we're gonna have to do here is we're not going to transition. So we're going to have to trigger transition, and we'll get to this point, but we're going to have to trigger transition once the elapsed frames have gone past the duration of an action automatically. Right now we did that by hand in our attack, I believe. Or, yeah, something like that. But what do we do in our, what do we do in our attack? I'm just going to go back to our common states real quick. My stack is being overrun. Yeah, so we're doing that in the attack here. We're going to move that out into the state machine pretty soon. But what we're going to do here is, yeah, okay. I need auto format on just what I select here. I'm afraid of formatting the whole file if I use the auto format stuff. Okay, so I don't want to do next state. I'm going to do current state. Hold on real quick. Is there not a current state? I thought no, there's definitely current state in the context, right? Oh, self.current state. Oops. Okay. That's in the state machine, yeah. Okay, self.current state. Okay. Make sure all that's correct. Wait. That's what we do down here, right? We just check to see current state. Oh, yeah. Okay, got it. So, current state name, get the action data, and we need the, well, actually, we don't need this. We just need const action data, or we could just do maybe a little bit more safer. Action data, and then okay, so we could do this. Oh, give me a tab. Okay, we could do if timeline dot frames elapsed is greater than or equal to action data dot duration. Then we can trigger transition, right? We'll go back to idle. So basically here will be support going back to idle. Otherwise, well, first of all, we need to see if it's looping, right? So if it's not looping, so if action data dot is looping equals false, we'll do this, right? Oops. Let's do equals false to be more explicit about what we're talking about here, instead of using like the not operator. Okay, so if it's looping, if it's not looping, we can do this, right? Or the better way to do this, yeah, I don't want to do it here. I want to do this. If it's looping, what we want to do is, yeah, so if it is looping, oops, yeah. If it's a looping one, then we'll just reset the frame elapsed to 0. Otherwise, we'll support returning back to idle, right? And that should be it for us there. What did I miss? Why do I have 2 levels of interaction? Okay, cool. Okay. So that should do that for us. We should have looping support now, which means we should be able to hit, because that elapsed timer is going to go back to 0. Oops. Oh. Oh, yeah. Let me do that inside of here. How do we end up? Some auto formatting stuff's happening, or I'm just I have no clue what I'm doing. Nobody knows what they're doing. Okay, there we go. It's a lot more code, but okay. Going here, still not hitting. What's going on here? So let's just debug this real quick, okay? So yeah, collapse this real quick. I'm just gonna write centered debug print time. Just the quickly do this, and yeah, we should see the counter going up to 10 and resetting, right? That's the whole idea. Oops, I did it. I did it again. Got myself in C-land way of thinking. Okay. Okay, so we're not looping back around. So what's going on? Let's double check our work. Or let's just set a breakpoint. Maybe none of this is working at all, actually. So let's set a breakpoint and step through. Step. Step. Okay, then we're in there. So let's see if we ever get here. Maybe we don't have a looping setup on it. Maybe looping never got initialized. Oh, let's do that. Let's hit this real quick. Yeah, maybe looping never got to that point. So let's inspect that real quick. You know what? I don't think I ever supported bools. I think that's the problem. I never supported bools in our serialization code. So hold on real quick. I think I've explicitly do that. Shouldn't take too long. Yeah, we got struct. We should have an int here somewhere. Yeah, we have int. Right. Bool. Is it boolean or bool? Let's hope it's bool. Okay. And so we should be return. I think we should be able to return just tree dot bool. Hopefully. Oh, not a comma, but a semicolon. Okay, let's do that again. Okay, let's look at our data here. This is, so we never get is looping. Our action data, it is standing, but it is not looping. So we missed something here. I missed something here. Okay, let's go look at this. Oh, is loop. Duh. That's probably a big indicator of why that wasn't working. Okay, it looks like we're looping down here now. Great. And it looks like we're getting overlap events. It might have been too fast for y'all to see, but let me get rid of that print. Okay, moving over here. Attack. Hey, we're getting 2 hitbox overlap events, as you can see right here, which is awesome. Let me go here and change this real quick. The collision system. Hitboxes overlap. Let's add a breakpoint. So we can see there's 2 there, right? Our this is not actually going to work at the end of the day. We're only going to support the collision event firing when it initially hits for per interaction, right? We don't want that firing for every active frame of an attack, but just to test that it is active and it is hitting during those active frames, we're showing it for every frame it is overlapping for now. So if I run that again, you can, well, let's just close that. And if I change the duration to something like 5, we should see, well, let's do 4. It's easier to see 4. Yeah, let's change it to 4. So if I walk over here, we should get 4 frames of overlap. Apologize, there's nothing pretty to see on screen yet, but we'll get there. Everything's debug. Yay. We get 4 frames of overlap, as you can see. Okay, everyone. That's going to be it for today. Streaming for a good bit, about an hour and 30 minutes. Appreciate you all for coming around. What we did today was we implemented a timeline so that we can actually support having a range of active properties within an action. We got attack working. I wanted to get reaction working, but obviously we had those additional things to do today. I forgot to foresee. So next time, yeah, we'll input a reaction. We'll actually have the enemy reacting to it, and we'll do hit stun that time. Anyway, that's it for meeting today. As always, appreciate you all for coming around. Hope you all have, if you're out in the U.S., have a good night, stay safe, and you all on this side of the planet, enjoy the rest of your day. Anyway, that's going to be it for me. Hope to see you all soon. Goodbye, and thanks for stopping by.